Okay, ready for round two? I know I am. This hand seems just fine. My opponent's mulliganed. I've got a turn 1 play, turn 2 play, removal. 4 lands is too much, but any hand with 5 would most likely get sent back, but 4 is fine. My opponent might be playing the same deck. Is definitely playing the same deck. This should be interesting. I'm curious to see how Bile-Blight will actually play out, because there's a good chance that it might be trying to kill my own creatures. Mirror match, I feel... It's tough to say the best way to win this. Yeah, see? Now my Bile-Blight is pretty useless against Tormented Hero. And it's pretty useless against Bloodsoak Champion, because you can just get it back. So we've got a Painseer in our hand, and Painseer is interesting because it causes us to lose life, which may, in a vacuum, seem bad if you're playing against an aggressive deck. But this discussion came up a lot with Dark Confidant, and Dark Confidant actually can be a very strong card in the aggro mirror, just because it allows you to stay ahead. Yeah, it can get your life total lower, but sometimes it's just what you need. Because if I'm drawing twice as many cards as my opponent, probably gonna win. Not gonna block here. So my biggest concern is that my opponent... probably taking the Spiteful Return. My biggest concern is if my opponent is playing Boon of Erebos. It's the 1 mana instant, creature gets +2/+0 and regenerates. So that seems really good in the mirror. Hopefully that doesn't get me. I also gotta imagine Hero's Downfall probably better, but not by much. Better than Despise. I mean, probably not by a lot. Ugh, another land. That's not the best. And the reason why Despise is still potentially good is because it can deal with Bestow guys. The more I play with Despise, the more reasons I'm noticing that it could potentially be better than Hero's Downfall. Not ready to say whether it is or isn't, but I am positive that it's worth discussion. Still not going to Bile-Blight anything here, it just doesn't seem worth it. Because Bloodsoak Champion will come back, Tormented Hero will cost me a guy. It would just be silly. My opponent plays something that I don't control, then I would be interested in Bile-Blighting it, but it doesn't look like what's happening. And my opponent is stuck on 2 lands. So hopefully this Painseer will allow me to... That's pretty gross. Will allow me to stay ahead of my opponent. But we're gonna set up this Tormented Hero, gain a life, which is awesome. And just like that, we are possibly far ahead. My opponent can get me to 5 next turn. There's no 3 mana bestow thing. If he has the Boon of Erebos, he can deal me 6. Then I could die to Painseer. That's the gamble. Opponent getting me to 5. Uh-oh. Oh, God. Okay. Oh, he's at 1. I saw that and thought I was at 1. I got scared. I'm gonna turn off the auto yields. I want this Painseer to be as exciting as possible. So I'm dead to the Herald. I'm dead to... I think that might be it. If I flip a Despise instead of a Hero's Downfall, that's gonna feel so good. Okay, here we go. Oh, thank God. Yeah, my opponent just banking on me dying with Hero's Downfall is probably his best way of winning. Or because of Pain Seer. In his mind, I'm probably playing more 3-drops than I actually am. So he's got Boon of Erebos, that's definitely good in the mirror. I'm going to bring in Whip because the lifelink is quite good in the mirror. Definitely bringing in Dark Betrayal and Cure. So how good Bile is definitely questionable. Pain Seer is still good, but I think I like cutting one. This is the rare time that Marauder's pretty bad. So we're going to get rid of him. 4 Thoughtseize, 4 Despise seems like a lot. And I'm on the draw. Thoughtseize and Despise actually both seem quite weak. So maybe... one more Despise for a Bile Blight. And one more Thoughtseize for... No, I was going to put the Pain Seer back in for a Thoughtseize, but I don't think I want to do that. I'm going to submit this. It's possible that all of discard is just bad, especially on the draw. I don't know. It's better to cast it not on turn 1. Like, the only time I do that is if it's the only card I have. The odds of that happening are pretty low. Gonna want to play a guy turn 1 if possible. And if that's the case, by the time I'm casting the discard, then it might not be relevant. I may have just talked myself into thinking my sideboard's worse than it is. But if we have to reevaluate for game 2, we will. No discard in our opening hand, so not particularly concerned. I'm going to keep this. Again, it's got 4 lands, but I think we can file it under good enough. So my opponent's playing fetch lands, and a lot of the lists have that, I don't even know what it's called. It's double X, it makes zombies with Delve. But unless you're playing that, you should not be playing fetch lands. I know, blah blah, mana thinning. Some people overestimate mana thinning, some people underestimate it. But, you know, it just can make a difference in aggressive mirrors. Like if my opponent's playing mono red, I could easily see 1 life being the difference, 2 life, don't even get me started. Okay, so let me see what I draw before I do anything. I drew a land. So I'm going to Bile Blight the Spiteful Returned, because my only other option is playing my own Spiteful Returned. That seems really counterintuitive. So fetch lands. The thinning, someone did the math, and it is very irrelevant in the first 15 turns of a game. If we're going past 15 turns, it's not going to matter. You've lost with this deck. Kept the Marauders in, that's interesting. I guess it could taste, you know, whatever, it's a fine card. If you're playing a combo deck, especially in Vintage or Legacy, where you're going through a huge chunk of your deck, then yeah, a couple fetch lands can be relevant. But a deck like this, unless you're abusing Delve in some way, just don't do it. It's such a common mistake, and I don't get it at all. Okay, so... kind of tempted to just Bile Blight the Marauder again. Because I'm a little behind. And I don't think Herald of Torment is going to help me get ahead. I think just attacking and then Bile Blighting the Marauder and then bestowing Spiteful Return next turn will do me more good than dropping a Marauder. That could be completely inaccurate. Part of the problem with dropping the Marauder and using it as a blocker is that he's got Boon of Erebos. I really just don't want to get blown out like that. If I had 5 mana right now, then I'd be fine playing the Herald, and then if he booned, I could Bile Blight in response, but I do not want to lose my Herald for such a silly reason. Opponent's got 3 cards in hand. Killing one of his guys will certainly be big for me. Anyway, if anyone at home has an argument against my fetch land stance, I'd be very interested in hearing about it. Hopefully he drops a Mogi's Marauder again. That would feel real good. I feel like I'd have a tough time winning that game. Losing that game, rather. I'm not sure if I want to hold off the Bile Blight until end of turn. How relevant that extra 2 damage is, because if he gets a Herald down, that would be quite powerful. I have a hard time getting through that, especially if he can bestow something on it. Opponent's doing nothing, though. Oh, 4 mana. Bestowing something, I bet. Really hope he's not playing his own Whip of Erebos. That card seems big trouble. Alright, bestowing on the champion, which makes sense because he can get it back. But what I'm going to do is Bile Blight it anyway. You can't get it back next turn, which means you can't attack with it the turn after. And he'll need to use mana next turn if he wants to attack with it. Gnarled can't block, so he'll be able to get in for a fair bit of damage next turn. It'll be 5 unless he wants to throw Marauder under the bus. And if he does, he's still taking 2 and losing a creature. So I'd be perfectly comfortable with that situation. Now he's going to attack. That definitely seems right. Even if he does see a bestow thing coming. Because I would love if he kept that back and blocked. That would be a very happy day for me. So we've got a big monster coming. I'm perfectly happy going bestow. Seems like that would be a pretty tough creature to beat. Our life total is dwindling though. We're going to take 4 next turn, if not more. Herald's not bad. I'm trying to decide if maybe just casting Herald is better. I don't know. Locks us into a boon pretty hard, but I really could use the extra life, and I've got another one I can bestow later. You know, my opponent is pretty far ahead of me. I think waiting a turn to do that doesn't change the clock significantly. So that's what I'm going to do. It might be wrong, but I'm a control player. I've sort of moved away from that, but it's my origin. So I often assume the safe route. This is definitely screaming Boon of Erebos. But if he wants to use it, then that's fine with me. It's wasting a trick, it's preventing some damage, it's going to cost him 2 life. Interesting. Just ran into it, maybe he was hoping I would not block. Oh, I see. Needing the 2 damage on it. Tormented Hero, I probably would have brought back the Bloodsoaked Champion there. But to each their own. Okay, so my opponent's hitting me for 4. Life total's still in a dangerous position. I'm just going to drop another Herald. And the question is what to do with the Spiteful Returned. Casting is probably just awful. So yeah, I think I'm going to hold that back for bestowing. I'm going to cast the Herald. My opponent's got one. Hopefully it's not a very good one. I'd love to draw Whip, but I can't really see losing. We managed to snag one of those. Playing another hero, so he's probably not attacking. If he's got another Cure, then that would be pretty annoying. Auto yield to this fella. Drawing a land again. Kind of annoying. Alright, so what to do here? If I bestow, I can get in for 6 minimum. Then he can attack back for 6. I'm dead to Herald of Torment, which could very well be the card in his hand. Could also bestow on the Gnarled and sort of force his hand to block that. So how do I die next turn? Herald of Torment or a Spiteful Returned, I believe would kill me. 2, 4, 6, 7. Yep. Oh, if only I were at 10. Alright, I'm gonna bestow up this guy. Try and just bide my time a little. And just get in little bits of damage. My opponent may block, may not. I don't think he will. Seems incorrect. Oh, he is blocking. Might have a boon. Doesn't seem like a very good trade. Nope, he's trading. So, tough to say what that last card in his hand is. Might be a Herald of Torment that he's just waiting to bestow. Oh, we're about to find out what one of them is. He could have his own Bile Blight now. Nope, another Blood-Soaked Champion. That's pretty strong. Okay, opponent's out of cards. I feel like you probably keep a Swamp there just to bluff the boon. I don't know. But I haven't really been playing around it, so maybe not. So a good draw here would be really helpful. Again, Whip would just be absolutely spectacular. Bile Blight's interesting. Okay, so if I Bile Blight one of his guys, I take a maximum of 7 next turn, which is lethal. And if he draws either bestow guy, though, maybe keeping one guy back is still right. Maybe not. If I attack with Spiteful Returned, will he trade? Maybe. Also Bile Blight now, and that guaranteed Spiteful... Yeah. Okay. These creatures can't block. I'm gonna kill this guy. Then we get to hit for 3. And keep our fat blocker back. And then... my opponent doesn't draw hot, or I don't draw cold, then we're sitting fairly pretty next turn. My opponent can draw a Herald of Torment. We're probably just screwed. I can't imagine I can deal with a 5/4 flyer. Opponent attacking. So attacking's correct here, because it'll allow him to get back the other Blood-Soaked Champion. So even if he doesn't have a trick, he's getting an extra 2 damage in, and if I block one of the creatures, he winds up with the same number of creatures at the end. So this is another situation where my opponent would attack regardless of trick. In those situations, I like to assume he doesn't have it, and I'm just going to block. This could blow up in my face. He could also have a Cure, so he could be trading. Let's see what he does. Looks like that might be it. Yeah, so that's why he did it, and that's fine. That's a correct way to go. So I can hit for 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I take 4 on the backswing. I can't afford to do that. But I feel like I have to attack. And I like not attacking with Herald, because if he wants to remove it, then I don't lose the 1 life anymore, which is definitely a concern. It's like if he draws a removal spell, hits me for 4, and I would die to Herald on upkeep. For that reason, I'm going to attack with just Spiteful Returned. If I don't attack at all, I'm like, clock's just ticking away. So now next turn, if my opponent bricks, then probably win. So that is what we were hoping for. Still a lot of ways I could die right now, I think. Maybe not, actually. Again, attacking always going to be right here because he can get a creature back. Blocking is definitely correct so we don't die. We do die to Burn of Erebos here. It looks like it's not what he has. Can Cure hit players? I can't actually remember. If it can, he can just kill me with it. That would be stinky. Alright, so looks like we played all our cards right there.